Hey weirdos! This video is going to be a little bit more serious. The main focus of this video is going to be the 10 recommendations that I mentioned in the title, but I wanted to have a quick discussion first, kind of about what everything is going on, primarily the protests. I'm not going to talk too much about what is happening because I'm pretty sure most people know what's happening. So if you don't know what's happening, go research, go on the internet. It's so easy to find information. I will just say, if you're still struggling in understanding what is going on and why there's the reaction that there is, first of all, go do your research. It's not that hard. There are Black creators on this platform, on BookTube, on YouTube in general, that can explain it far better than I can. For those who all those other resources just aren't getting through your head, think about it like this. These protests and these riots, they are not just about George Floyd. George Floyd is the catalyst. It is really about all of the police brutality and racism that has existed in America since day one. Police brutality and the racism that Black people and people of color face in America is astonishing. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend this whole George Floyd situation is the first time that I've ever heard about it. That is absolutely not true. I'm an anthropology major, for God's sake. This is something that we study. These protests are a result of hundreds of years in America of violence against Black people, and particularly police violence against Black people. All of those instances has been building up, and George Floyd was just the straw that broke the camel's back. If you are upset about the looting that is happening, that is ridiculous. People have every right to be as angry and as frustrated as they are. This is not about one person. This is about systemic problems in America. That's all I'm really going to say about that. If you are a person who cares about your friends, your relatives, your partners, anyone in the world that is Black, there are things you could do, and there are things that you should do, and there are things that I should do to become a better ally. In the interest of, I'm going to be kind of talking about briefly things that I can do and things that you can do. Join protests. Now, protesting is a thing that each individual person has to make their own opinion on, because right now we are living in a pandemic. Coronavirus is still very real, and so if you are personally uncomfortable protesting, that is perfectly fine. Choose some of the other options I'm going to talk about. I have so much respect for the people who are choosing to be in the protests. In my opinion, that is so brave, because not only do you have to deal with the rubber bullets and the tear gas, you also have to deal with the freaking pandemic that's going on right now. Other options are online protests. There are online protests where you tweet or watch a video or participate in a moment of silence. Other things you can do is you can sign your name to a petition. Petitions are very easy. They take literally no time. Also, you can write to your representatives if you are an American citizen. This, again, takes no time. There are online resources where all you have to do is copy and paste the text and copy and paste the email of your representative. That easy. If you want, you can actually write letters and send them in the mail. That's a great idea. Advocate for things like 8 Can't Wait. If you sign a petition, you follow up with an email. If you want to, there's also places you can donate. Donate your money. Another thing that is so easy for you to do is just listen. Before you say anything, listen to Black people. If you don't know, I am a docent at the Harry Beecher Stowe House in Cincinnati. At that house, we talk a lot about racism and slavery in America, because that is inherently tied to the period. One thing that I am going to do better at is including more information about the house and its history within the community, and spend more time highlighting when it was the Edgemont Inn, when it was in the Green Book. Another big thing you can do is educate yourself. Take a hard look at yourself and evaluate the interactions you've had with your friends. Listen to your friends. Listen to Black people about their experiences and believe them. Let's stop this gaslighting bullshit of not believing them. Ways you can do this are watch, here on BookTube, watch Black booktubers. So simple. Also, if you don't want to learn about books, there are so many Black creators on YouTube in general that talk about everything. Any genre that you watch in BookTube, there are an abundance of Black creators. Watch movies that highlight the Black experience. Watch podcasts, read articles. And the last bit is read books. For those who want recommendations right now, let's get into the books that I personally recommend. These are books that I've read. The books that I've chosen are kind of a mix of different things. There's not a central theme about books about racism. These are in no particular order. All of these books have audiobooks. The first book I'd recommend is Beloved by Toni Morrison. This book is very powerful and might be a little bit confusing because of the magical realism aspects. However, I think it is a very fascinating story. Toni Morrison, her inspiration for this book, Beloved, was a story, was an actual story of what the mother did in this book. Before you go judging anyone in the book, you need to take a step back and think about why. I don't really want to spoil much in this book because I think it's really important to read by yourself. And it was very impactful to me, and I really loved reading it. Be a really good book club pick because there are many interesting discussions that you can have about the motivations behind the characters, what's going on, and all of the symbolism in this book. It's Toni Morrison. It's fabulous. The writing is beautiful. Just go read it. Next book I'd like to recommend is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. I apologize if I mispronounce any names. And pronouncing things, as you guys know, on my channel is something that I struggle with. This book, I think most people had to read it in high school. I had to read this in high school, and it was one of the first intense perspectives to that level of what colonialism did in Africa specifically. And it was one of the first times that I really was able to realize how destructive missionaries are. I haven't talked a lot about my opinions about missionaries on this channel, but that is a separate video. This book, it is so interesting. Again, I think this would work really well, again, as another book club pick because there are so many interesting discussions that you can have about the things that take place in this book. I would really hope that there would be no judgment on the culture depicted because culture depicted is very different from most people in the West. And I remember when I had to read it in class, I was very stunned by the amount of people who were condemning the culture. Freaking ridiculous. Don't condemn other people's cultures. It's called ethnocentrism. The next book is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. This is so powerful. It's Maya Angelou. Do I need to say more about this book? It is her memoir about her experience growing up as a young African American woman in the South. What I really loved is her writing. Her writing is just so powerful and so vivid that it really just haunts you. And I think this would be another good book club pick because there'd be so many good discussions around it. But it is heart-wrenching. It's very difficult to read at times. I loved that it focused so much on her childhood. I'm very partial to memoirs that focus on famous people's childhood, and just the way she does it is beautiful. The next book is The Deep by River Song. What I really love about this Afrofuturism book is that it takes the world of the deep that has been created by and expanded upon by other creators in different media. Each time there is a new iteration of the story and the people in the deep. It changes the world and improves the world, makes the world of the deep so complex because there is not one headcanon. And I think that there is a beauty in that is not seen a lot in literature ever. The Deep is Afrofuturism book that started from pregnant African women who were thrown overboard because they were pregnant during the Middle Passage. What it does with the mythology is just really interesting, and the themes it explores I really enjoy, and it's also a very short book as well. And the audiobook, and this one I would say is very good. The audiobook for I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings is also fabulous. The fifth book I have to recommend is How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. This book is so well researched and does such a good job of bringing ethos and pathos together to make the argument of why you should be an anti-racist. Part of me hates that this book has to exist, but it also makes sense because of the world that we live in today. It is part memoir. He goes through his life while explaining these big, complicated topics. He reflects a lot back on his life, on how he was a little bit of a racist himself. And he does that self-reflection in order to show you how he improved to become a better person. And I think that is something that we all should do. I would recommend it, especially for right now, if you are trying to understand what is going on and it's very hard for you to wrap your mind around why. I think this is a very good book for you to read. Please read it. The sixth book is Solitary by Albert Woodfox. This is also a memoir. It is a very long memoir. I found Woodfox's story so frustrating. So if you don't know, this is a book that came out recently, and it's actually currently in the running for the BookTube prize. This is about a black man who was in solitary confinement because of a crime he did not commit. He was framed by the state of Louisiana over and over. You can see where gaps in their evidence is. Those gaps and the evidence that he's innocent is repeatedly passed over. I think it is a really good book if you are interested in the injustice in the justice system in America. It is a good book if you are just curious and want to learn more about what it is like to be Black in America. He also talks a lot about the racism he experienced both outside and inside prison. The whole story is just incredibly frustrating because he was let down time and time again and had to live for over 40 years in solitary confinement, which is an inhumane practice. Seventh is How We Fight for Our Lives by Saeed Jones. Really recommend the audiobook for this. The author narrates it, and it is incredibly powerful. Saeed Jones is a poet. You can very easily tell that by his writing. It is beautiful. It is a memoir of his life growing up in the South as a Black man and also a gay Black man. At times it can get explicit, so if you're uncomfortable with that, just know that. Again, this is a short book. It packs a big punch in the short amount of time. It is so good, and I think that so many people should read this. Eighth, we have The Road to Dawn. This is the biography and the story of Josiah Henson. If you do not know who Josiah Henson is, he is the person that the character of Uncle Tom is based off of. Really loved how this book was done because it not only told Josiah Henson's life, it also contextualized it, so you don't really have to have read Uncle Tom's Cabin at all to enjoy and read this book. And this book can be very difficult to swallow, but ultimately it is a story about how a man was able to persevere and make the world a better place when he had no rights. Josiah Henson, in my opinion, is someone that more people need to know about, more people need to read about, completely separate from his connection to Uncle Tom's Cabin because of the opportunities he was able to create for other Black people in his situation. This also is very well researched. The author did a really good job. All right, next we have The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Becca Skloot. The author is white in this one, but this is really the definitive work on Henrietta Lacks. So if you are really interested in what is going on in the scientific community with HeLa cells, then you really should read this book. It is mind-boggling. You are interested in understanding why Black people are so distrustful of the medical system, of doctors, read this book. That will help clue you in. This book really isn't about Henrietta Lacks. I know what I just said. This is really a book about Henrietta's daughter, Deborah. The scientific community acknowledges, but nothing is really being done other than the acknowledgement of the massive issues of the HeLa cells. Henrietta Lack's family still cannot afford basic health care, but yet HeLa cells are everywhere in the world for medical research and being used in medical research. My opinion, that's fucked up. The very last book I have to recommend is The Pretty One by Kia Brown. This is a collection of essays that create a memoir. Audiobook, really good on this one. Kia Brown narrates herself, and it is extremely beneficial to get her personality come through even more than it does so just reading it. And these essays deal with everything from her relationship to her twin sister, to her disabilities, to her identity as being a Black woman, to the fact that it is ridiculous that she is so incredibly hard for her to see depictions of herself in media because of her intersectional identities of being a Black disabled woman in America. It's incredibly frustrating and funny and sad, and I think that people should read this book as well. That is it for this video. I will link a crap load of resources in the description below. You really shouldn't really have to look into the description because Google. That's really it.